You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge.
What's up, everybody? How y'all doing? It is your girl, your diva in knowledge, Lady Mocha, represent Mocha's Cafe de Paris, where I'm always serving you wisdom, knowledge, and spiritual awareness. Thought it was very imperative that I brought this news to all of you who possibly have not heard. Once again, there is a pastor not living the word of God, not living what he's preaching, who's living a double life outside of his ministry. So this story has pretty much gone viral. It's all over social media. It's all in the news sites. All the bloggers have been talking about it. Basically, there's a pastor by the name, well, I'm not going to say pastor, I'm going to say passer. There's a passer because he loves to pass his penis around, evidently. Pastor Sheldon McCarter, pastor of Hello Greater Church in North Carolina, USA, has been busted cheating on his wife, Joyce McCarter, with their married praise and worship leader, Sherry Bowden. Sherry Bowden is the First Lady of Remnant Church International, which is pastored by her husband, Boyce Bowden. Pastor Boyce Bowden had to hire a private investigator to catch Bishop Sheldon and his wife Sherry in the act after confronting Pastor Sheldon, who denied the allegations. All of this is allegedly. Nevertheless, a different article goes on and says this is not pastor's first time allegedly getting caught up in a scandal. By the way, the story is coming out of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Allegedly, Bishop Sheldon McCarter was spotted coming out of a hotel with the woman that was not his wife. According to the North Carolina Beat, the Hello Greater Church bishop was apparently caught with married praise and worship leader Sherry Bowden, wife of Boyce Bowden. The two Bowdens pastor a church in the High Point, North Carolina, but assist with praise and worship at the Hello Greater Church. Bouse, who hired a private investigator, was suspicious of his wife's alleged infidelity to follow her whereabouts, where she was later spotted with the bishop. Allegedly, this is not the bishop's McCarter first scandal of cheating on his wife, amongst other scandals that include allegedly losing his church back in 2019. So, I am going to go ahead and proceed with the clip so you can see exactly for yourself that Pastor McCarter, he gives a whole different meaning to missionary. So I'm going to go ahead and play that beautiful bean footage so y'all can see for yourself how this pastor literally gets caught.
The rest of the congregation, Bishop Jones, and the whole jurisdiction that would know about it. I'm exposed to Yeah, so basically, long story short, I'm over here at the Holiday Inn Express. I'm here because my wife's been cheating on me. With our pastor, Pastor Leon Mitchell. Yeah, only way I found out, I went through a phone last night.
For entertainment purposes
only.
You know
what I'm saying? And I seen that she had been talking to him for like the last 6 weeks or 2 months or so. Yeah, so they've been involved heavily. So she doesn't know that I went through a phone, and I seen that they were supposed to meet up today at the Holiday Inn Express. So I made it over here. I've been following her. She's in the back somewhere. She didn't park the car trying to be slick, so no one would notice it. Notice she's at the hotel or something like that. But to me, I'm just waiting on her. She's coming from the back, so whenever she comes to the front, I'm confronting her about it, because that's not I do everything for this woman. I pay all the bills and everything, and she doesn't need for anything. Now she's over here sleeping around with the pastor out of all people. You know what I'm saying? It is. There she is right. There she is right there. Tanya? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Yeah, I'm on to you. Yeah, look at the Holiday Inn Express, huh? Yeah, my wife, huh? You're my wife, huh? But you at the Holiday Inn Express. What you doing here, huh? What are you doing?
Charles,
you mean the pastor, huh? You mean Pastor Mitchell?
Yeah,
you just said
counseling.
Yeah, counseling. You come out stupid. You're not playing with me. You're not stupid. You've been messing with the pastor.
Okay.
You've been messing with the pastor. You're a bitch.
like that.
You a big what is it? What is it like then, huh? What is it like then? Oh, trust it. Let me see your phone. Let me see your phone. Let me see your phone. Yeah, no, what's the code? What's the code? What's the passcode to get in? What's the passcode to get in?
8899.
Exactly, all right. You don't have nothing to hide and you don't worry about it. 889. That's not the right. That's not. Let me see what's going on. What? You see how you lied? You see how you lied? What is it going on? What you got? Come on, we'll get off. You got a naked picture over here? What the f is he sending you a naked picture for? What is he sending you a naked picture for? What does the message say? I'll be there. Can you bring me? Yes, that's fine. I'll be there. That's from today. I'm just talking about last night. How long has it been going on? How long has it been going on? Sorry, how long has it? Come on, no, we're going over this.
I mean, you act like you know
You're meeting him anyway. Come on, let's go. You were meeting him. Come on. If you want to save your marriage and you don't have nothing to prove, then come on, show me that you're not messing with him. Let's go. Let's go. Nigga, you can't have shit back. Come on. Can't believe you.
Why is you recording?
What is it? I'll be here. What is that?
Okay, it's not that serious. You about to see.
Get out. You know, I'm going to see anything. Naked picture. Oh
People
my God,
make accidents all the time.
Fair use for entertainment purposes only.
Let me see. What did we say? 326. Come on, let's go. Let's go. Can't believe you, man.
We should do this.
Yeah, we're doing it. You said you don't have nothing to prove. Come on, you don't have nothing to hide. What the f going on? Can't believe you. Oh, people, the goddamn pastor. Come on, hit the button. People gonna hit it anyway if I want to hear it.
Oh, it's not serious. You here.
You lost your damn mind. You lost your damn mind because I'm exposing you. I'm showing everyone kind of, don't hide now, don't hide now, don't hide now, look at you. Don't hide now. Oh, where's your wedding ring, huh? Where's your ring? Oh, now you have a ring, huh? You think that's gonna make a difference?
I left you my accent. It's not that
He
serious.
still knows you're married.
Okay.
He still knows you're
So
married.
then you should
He's
know that I
still
did
cheating
it.
with without the ring. Come on, man.
Oh
I
my
don't believe you. What a fucking pastor, man.
I can't believe it's really not that serious.
Punch the shit out. Come on. Where is it? Where's it? 320?
We don't need to go.
Yo, come on, no, because I'm showing you. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. You know it. Go ahead. Where is it?
I don't want to do this.
Where's the 320? What is 23, 24? What is 320?
You read the name.
326. 326. No. Go ahead. You right here. Stupid, man. I'll tell you, you have everything in the world and it up. Just stupid. You look how you dress. Yeah, anytime. What's going on, Pastor? What's going on, Pastor Mitchell? I seem surprised. Huh? You expect my wife, you expect me also, huh? You expect me also, huh?
What's going on?
You know what's going on. What the hell out here? What's going on with you and my wife? What's going on with you and my wife?
I don't know.
What the hell is going on with you and my wife? Oh, come on, go ahead and cut that shit off, man. Come on, Pastor. What's going on with you and my wife, man? Man, you've been around my family because I'm exposing you. You've been around my family. I've been around your lovely wife, man. Come on, man. You ain't messing with my wife, man. Come on, man.
Stop putting that camera in my face and give me my phone back.
Fair use for entertainment purposes only.
You want to We're not talking about anything, man. Come on, Pastor. Out of all people, me, man. Come on, man.
Charles, what?
I thought we were better than this, man. Come on, man. No, we're not, man.
You know I'm a man of God,
You're not a man of God. Don't you? That's what? A man of God.
Yes, Charles, there's nothing going on with me.
That's
and your wife,
adultery,
Charles.
Pastor. Pastor, that's adultery. You messing around with a married woman. You didn't know.
You guys were
I got
having a
the
relationship.
What was the
and I'm
reason?
to pull myself to help you guys.
Pastor, what was the reason behind the naked pictures? I saw the pictures. Yeah, the naked pictures today, man. Come on. You seen our white pictures, man? Come on, man. Come on, no, I'm exposing you. No, the rest of the congregation, Bishop Jones, and the whole jurisdiction there would know about it. I'm exposing you. You your child. I don't care. We're doing this. We're doing this. I don't want to do anything. You know what? You messed.
I want to go. I just want to get my phone and go.
You know, you messed up my marriage. How about if I messed up your marriage, huh? You know what? You know what? Matter of fact, let me call First Lady. Let me call First Lady. Yeah, let me call First Lady. I'm calling you. I'm calling you.
Give me my phone back. I'm trying. He won't give me my phone back.
You got alcohol. You got what the going on, man?
Give me my phone.
You're not getting nothing. You're not gonna know.
Give me my phone.
What's her name on the phone? What do you have her name say?
I'm not telling you.
What do you have her name say?
She's the first lady. Duh.
Yeah, whatever. We're gonna see. All right. You call her. I'm calling her right now. I can't believe you. I hope you get this. Is what you wanted, right? This is what you wanted, right?
Give me my phone
Hello.
back.
Hello. Hey, how you? No, ma'am. Hey, this is Charles. Do you know where your husband's at?
Give me my phone,
I'm
Charles.
like, give me the move.
Charles, give me my phone.
Get off.
It's not that
Do you know
serious.
where your husband's at? He's at the hotel right now. Him and my wife apparently been messing around. I have messages. I went through a phone last night, see they've been messing around for at least 2 months.
Give me my phone.
I swear. Yes, ma'am.
Give me my
He's
phone.
at the
Fair use,
hotel
fair
right
use
now. I'm
for
recording it
entertainment
right now.
purposes only.
Yes, ma'am. Hello. She hungry. I hope that makes you happy. Yeah. You stupid.
No, you
Fucking stupid. No, you stupid. That's all you. What you running off? What are you running off for? What? That's all you want to do.
No, it's not just me and Tanya. It's more than me and
Ma'am, yes, ma'am. It's him and Tanya. They've been beating us for the last 2 months. I'm exposing them.
You know we gotta convince stuff at the hotel.
Pastor Leon Mitchell. I'm exposing them.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what he does. Sleep with married women.
I'll call you back.
Then he has a condom. Did he have a condom on the handset?
I'll call you
He has
back.
a condom. What were you doing with the condom?
I'll call you back.
A man of God, what were you doing with the condom, huh? Come on, man. What were you doing with the condom? Get the hell out of here, man. Get the hell out of here.
You got everything that you want to
I'm
do.
not going anywhere. I'm not getting until I get my point across. I'm not getting any point. My point's getting across, man.
Hey, listen, brother.
Listen,
I'm still Leo from the city, brother. Come on now. Let's
Oh,
go.
what you saying? What you want
Let's
to
go.
do?
I'm
What
just
you want to
saying.
do?
You're not about to do that, Charles. You're
Let's
not about to
go.
do that, Charles. Stop, y'all. Stop. Get out.
I told you. Oh, that makes you happy? That's what makes you happy?
Get out of here. Put your hands on your head.
You can stay with him. You can stay with him. That's what you want anyway. You can stay with him. You can stay with him.
Charles.
That's what you want anyway. Oh, yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Y'all deserve each other.
So as y'all can see, they was definitely like a deer caught in the headlights. They did not expect Pastor Bowden to catch them literally in the act. But I definitely have to first start off by saying I give Bowden much props for keeping his cool. This is one of those situations that somebody could have literally caught a case. I mean, this man could have went up in there, blazing the place up. These type of situations that people go through, it really takes you to a whole different place in which you would never even expect to be. So I know this man is definitely covered under the grace of God because he kept his cool even when he was going off, even even with his intelligence being insulted. When this pastor had the audacity to basically try to play him stupid, like nothing's going on, we're not doing anything. Look, dude, my wife is coming out your hotel room, and the fact that she tried to lie to him and say, they were meeting together, and the reason she gave the purpose of why they was meeting, we know it definitely didn't make any sense. And you know what? I truly believe this is not his first time, getting in this type of situation. I can look at this man and tell, because he is a nice looking guy, that he's probably smashing half of those women in the congregation. No disrespect to his wife, but his wife looks like somebody, that probably does Bible study with Medea from time to time. She's older. She done put on a little bit of weight. And, you can tell when these men are not really attracted or into their own wives. All of this was a facade because as a pastor, you are expected to be married. You are expected to have a woman as your support system on your team, regardless of how she looks. And evidently, this man is nowhere near built to be a man of God. He's not anointed. This is not his calling. This man is still entertaining the flesh. And even though, as a man, you're going to be attracted to other women. You're going to get tempted. The flesh is, you're not exempt from being tempted by the flesh. I don't want anybody to think that just because somebody in ministry that they are exempt from being tested. Doesn't matter if you're pastor, deacon, you're on the usher board or whatever. We all are going to encounter situations in which you will be tempted. However, but if you are in the spirit the right way, you will not put yourself in situations in which you can end up taking things to a whole nother level. And see, this is the reason why A lot of people consider church as a joke. They're considering that following Christ and living for Christ is a joke because they see people like this guy, like this man here, who's supposed to be a man of God, who's supposed to be leading a congregation into righteousness. To see him get exposed in this manner, this is the reason why religion, unfortunately, is catching so much heat. And those of us who truly worship God, who truly want to connect with Him, you know, you got a lot of these non-believers that are looking at us like we're a joke. Like, these are the people y'all follow. These are the people you worship. These are the people who y'all tithe, giving all your hard-earned money to. And I can't speak for everyone else, but that is why I've been following my own path of being more spiritual and less concerned with becoming a part of an organized religious organization. You know, I'm just kind of over it. You know, I've been in several different churches, and you know, it's always something that you see out of pocket. And I get it. You know, you have people that say, well, if you can go to the club and people get drunk and want to fight, you know, you should be able to go to the house of the Lord regardless of what happens and mistakes that go on and things that occur. You know, if you really have the love for God, you're not going to allow what you see in the church deter you from going to church. My thing is, when I go to the club, I expect that. Whenever I do go, which is rarely, I expect people to get drunk. I expect fights. I expect stuff like that to jump off in that type of environment. You know, however, when I go to the house of the Lord, I don't expect to see things, certain things I just don't look to happen. Certain places are built for chaos, confusion, drama, but when it comes to the house of the Lord, anytime I see anybody moving funny, my spirit just doesn't sit well. I see a pastor or a first lady that's doing something out of the will of God. Not that I'm so perfect and religious and I don't know the Bible in and out. I cannot quote every scripture to you. But what I do know is it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see when a person is not living and they're not basically living what they are preaching and teaching. They're living a totally different life outside of what they are trying to inspire or encourage others to live. And I've seen it far too many times, you know, in a lot of these churches, because at the end of the day, there's a difference between being a Christian and a church folk. And I think the problem is a lot of people confuse the two. Just because somebody constantly goes to church, it does not make them Christian. Everybody doesn't go to church for the right reasons. Some people go to church because they want to network. It's all about a business. It's all about meeting people who got money, who they can network with, you know, and possibly build some type of business or partnership. You got some people that go to church specifically just to look for women, or specifically just to look for men. Some people go to church because they're looking for somebody to hook up with or to smash. You know, let's keep it a buck. Everybody ain't going to the church to find the Lord. Everybody's not going to the church to be saved, sanctified, and filled with the Holy Ghost. You do have some people who do go to church because they honestly want to connect with God. They want a relationship with God, and they want to be in the company of people who are yearning and desiring to have that same type of connection. But we're living in some different times, and you know, you definitely in these churches, there's a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing. They're just a lot of false prophets. You know, it's a lot of false prophets. And Mr. McCarter, because that's what I'm going to call him. I'm not going to call him a pastor. Mr. McCarter, he's a prime example. And this is nothing new under the sun. There's pastors getting people within the ministry that's getting caught up in scandals day in and day out. And unfortunately, you know, a lot of these men of God who they call themselves to be, not because they live it, but they call themselves to be as such. A lot of these men are struggling with a lot of their own demons, and instead of them taking the time to, you know, step down from the pulpit, step down, recognize that you are struggling with some issues in this area, and get the help you need. I guarantee you, this is not this man's first time getting caught up, and actually that was verified allegedly through one of the articles, that this is not his first time getting caught up in some type of scandal. And the thing about it is, you know, a lot of times God has mercy and grace. He will keep dealing with these individuals on their demons by putting them in situations where they have to confront it. Kind of like what happened with Bishop Eddie Long, who passed away, and he had a huge scandal surrounding him that he had been having relations with other men within his ministry. And to this day, all the way up until he passed, the man would never come clean and say that he was struggling with homosexuality. But what he did do was he paid his victims off some hush money. And every time he was asked during interviews, you know, what happened, what are these allegations that are being made, this man would dance around every question. He would not directly answer anything regarding those allegations. And when you, as a man in leadership, have those type of allegations being claimed against you, you should want to thoroughly explain to clear your name, because you don't want to bring that kind of reproach on your church, and you definitely don't want to be stained with that type of allegation on your name. But the man would not answer it, and the truth is he couldn't answer it because he knew he was participating in demonic activity with those young men within his church who trusted him. And the problem is, a lot of these pastors, they can get away with a lot of murder, because when you're in that type of profession, when you're in ministry, your congregation entrusts you with everything. And that's the dangerous part about men who have these type of demonic issues, and women who have these type of demonic issues within the ministry, because they have such a huge influence. People look up to them. People seek them for guidance. And whenever you are in ministry and you have these unsettling demons that you have not yet to conquer, you're going to bring those same demons with you, those demonic struggles. They're going to follow you wherever you go, until you get a handle on it, until you be transparent and you talk to men who've been in leadership and been in leadership for years, who have seen men fall from grace, to help them, you know, to conquer and battle these demonic struggles. Eventually it's going to come to the surface, because you're not confronting it and you're not dealing with it. And that is basically what happened. This man has a problem with his penis. Okay, he cannot keep his dick in his pants. That is the bottom line. And you know he knows that is wrong, because the fact that you had to go pay for a hotel room in a discreet area, and your wife knew nothing about where you were, and the fact that you were secretly seeing a fellow brethren who's supposed to be like your spiritual brother, because all of these deacons and pastors, they all work together, they congregate together, they're supposed to do a lot of, you know, things within fellowship. They're fellowshipping together. The fact that you would betray your own brethren by sneakingly dipping with his wife at an undisclosed hotel lets me know that you know you were extremely wrong. You knew what you was doing was wrong, basically. You knew what you was doing. Because if you felt it was right, you wouldn't have to hide it. And the fact that he was pleading and begging the man to not record him shows the audacity of how unremorseful you are for your actions. And it was only a matter of time he was going to get caught, because he was evidently becoming more and more comfortable with doing what he was doing. And this is what happens when a person has been doing something wrong for so long, they forget to cross all their T's and dot all their I's. So somewhere, the woman who he was smashing, which goes by the name of Sherry Bauman, her husband, which is probably going to be her ex-husband, Mr. Bauman, smelled something wasn't clean in the buttermilk. For him to go so far as to hiring a private investigator, it's a major red flag that this man been seeing something, or he been sensing something. And whatever the case, his intuition was 100% right. The private investigator produced those receipts, and he was smart enough to not just go by what the private investigator said. He actually took action and looked into it himself. That way there was no question, no lie, no doubt. And I'm just amazed at how strong he kept his composure, because anybody else in this situation would have caught a case. You know, they would have been, emptying the clip. These situations like this could really bring out the demon in a person, when your own wife, your own husband is caught cheating on you, and it's with someone that you fellowship with. If this ain't a slap in the goddamn face, I don't know what is. And then for them to be so unremorseful. Like, why are you doing this? You doing too much. What's wrong with you? Nothing is worse than catching somebody red-handed and they sitting up there playing stupid. Like, they don't know what they did wrong. So I have to give this man props for keeping his composure, because he could have very well been sitting in somebody's jail right now, needing bail money. He very well could have possibly been facing going to prison. But I'm glad he kept his dignity, because what's going to happen is everything's out in the open now. They're going to be doing time in their own way. Sherry and this pastor, McCarter, they're going to be doing time just by the fact, the public humiliation they're going to have to face, because it's everywhere. When I say it's everywhere, it's all over Facebook. I've seen their members talking about it. Everybody, of course, Pastor Bauman had McCarter to call his wife while they was at the hotel. So, his wife definitely knows. His wife family knows, which means they children know. So this man is going to have to really be ready to face the music. Pastor McCarter, he really got blood on his hands right now. And it's so evident. He couldn't lie. He couldn't get around it if he paid the money to do it. So that is the scarlet letter. He has to walk that hall of shame, knowing that everybody is going to see you different now. Now, there was a few people, because I ain't gonna lie, some church folks are in complete denial. You have some people trying to defend him, saying that, well, everybody makes mistakes. Don't be throwing stones at glass houses, and it's probably stuff you have done, but you just haven't been exposed yet. Listen, some of these church folks give religion a bad name. Nowhere in the Bible does the scripture says be blind to wrongdoing. Nowhere in the scripture does it says if your pastor has been exposed, turn a blind eye. I mean, some people could be so overly religious to where they come off as as dumb. You know what I mean? And this is the reason why a lot of people don't respect religion, because religion to some people comes off as stupidity, meaning you have to be stupid. You have to keep overlooking and forgive. And even though the Bible tells us that, but at the same time, it also says you judge the tree by the fruit that it bears. So when you see somebody out here living recklessly and it wasn't a rumor, you see it red-handed, not no gossip, not no hearsay. You actually see it blatantly in your face that your pastor is smashing somebody's wife, somebody else's wife within the congregation. At this point, that there's no sparing him because he's a pastor. If he has just a little bit of remorse, just a second, what he would do is step down without people having to tell him or people having to ask him. If he has just a second of sympathy, not that should even give him a pass, he would step down. He, for one, would apologize to the whole first of all, he need to apologize to that man's wife. And not saying apology is going to change anything or that is going to give him a pass, but damage is already done. First off, he needs to apologize to that man. And he needs to do all of this in front of his church. Because it was a public humiliation, it warrants a public apology. So he needs to stand in front of his church. The same people who have been paying him, they tithe the money every Sunday. The same people who been praising and worshiping him and praying with him. He needs to stand in front of his congregation. For one, apologize to that man. For two, no, I apologize. Let me back up. First, he needs to apologize to his wife, okay? Because his wife comes first. Second, he needs to apologize to that man whose wife he was smashing. And third, he needs to apologize to the congregation. And fourth, he needs to step down. He needs to turn in his resignation papers. He needs to turn in his pink slip and humbly step down and say, I do not deserve to be in leadership of this church. And once he steps down, he needs to go and get some psychological and spiritual help. He needs to let a real man of God give him spiritual guidance. He needs to just leave that church. Matter of fact, he doesn't even need to be in leadership. He needs to be a regular member. I do believe he still needs to go to church to get those demons cleansed all the way out of his system, to get those demons purged out of his system. I do believe he still needs to go to church because he still needs healing, but he just needs to be a member. He needs to be demoted to a member. He has no business in being nowhere on the board, nowhere in leadership of that church or any more churches for that matter. Step down, be a member, and if your wife is still willing to be with you, which I'm sure she probably is, if she's still willing to be with you, you need to humble yourself, be a member, and do whatever you can at this point to try to revive your marriage if there's any hope in it left. That's really the only thing he can really do at this point. He needs to step down. But you have these church folks, and notice I didn't say Christians. I did not say Presbyterian. I didn't give a specific religion. Church folks. Because church folks like to make excuses and condone unethical, immoral behavior when it comes from their pastors. And honestly, Bishop Eddie Long, he did just that. He did the opposite. He would not step down. He would not apologize. He would not admit. And you know what happened? A lot of people don't look at it this way, but I believe that is what ultimately became his demise. Holding in all those demons instead of confessing his actions and his issues with homosexuality or whatever sexual immorality issues he was having. He kept bottling it up. He held it in. He would not confess. And I think that was the very thing that made him sick. I think that was the very thing that took a toll on his health, that made his health decline. Because he left this world holding all of that dirt in. He would not confess to relieve himself. A lot of people don't understand that repentance is more than just you just telling God, like, God, I know I was wrong. I ain't had no business, what's the word? Smashing her to smithereens, and I know I had no business clapping those cheeks. It's more than just that. It's actually not only admitting to God that you were wrong, but also taking the necessary steps to get help for it. Bishop Eddie Long didn't go to no counseling. He didn't seek no spiritual guidance, none of that. He's just sat up there, paid off his victims, and kept on going. And guess who supported him? Church folks. But even with them supporting him, it was not enough to save him. It did not keep him here. Had he probably been transparent and not only confessed, but took the necessary steps, who's to say that God still could not have spared him? And he could have used his weaknesses as a testimony for other men in his congregation who probably was also struggling with homosexuality, who was also struggling with fornicating or having sexual relations with other women outside their marriage. His downfall could have inspired other people to also reevaluate how they live their lives, because if they would have saw him rise from that, if they would have saw God still blessing him through that, that probably would have given him more time. But God is always in business. He's not about to allow none of his people to be misled, and especially by those who claim to know him and have a higher position in him. He's not about to allow his people to be misled by these false prophets. And when God has gotten fed up and tired of these false prophets dragging his people to an unholy, immoral lifestyle, God will eventually shut it down, because he does not need none of these non-believers, people who already want to look for a reason to justify living unholy, living unclean. He's not about to allow these pastors or these men who claim to be leaders of God to keep manipulating their people, because what's going to happen is, if God doesn't make an example out of these men or women of God who's living immoral and who's not representing being the men of God or women of God, he knows it's going to bring reproach on his ministry. It's going to send mixed signals. Everybody else is going to feel like, oh, well, if Pastor so-and-so got exposed for homosexuality and nothing happened to him, God is still blessing him with favor. God is still blessing him with money. God is still blessing him with being in leadership. What you think that's going to happen? It's going to give people mixed signals that I can get away with not living right and God is going to bless me. So God had to step in and shut that operation down, just like he did with this guy here. This guy was going to man was going to continue to contaminate and infest the ministry with his demonic deeds. Because even if people don't know what you do, like in this case, it finally got exposed, that spirit, he was going to keep carrying that spirit within that congregation, in which other people would have been doing the same thing. So even had this not been exploited, just the fact that he was secretly living this type of life behind closed doors before he got exposed, he was basically bringing cancer within the ministry. He didn't know it yet because nobody saw or knew what he did, but he was contaminating, he was polluting his ministry. Because you're up here preaching something, you can't tell me that you're in leadership as a man of God, and when it's time for you to preach the word, and you're talking about fornicating, you're talking about adultery, and yet you are doing the very thing that you are teaching and preaching the flock to be against. You're bringing contamination into the ministry, and God had to shut that operation down. And this is the reason why he got exposed. God is not in the business of using people to lead those who are vulnerable and who are still trying to seek the Lord. He's not going to keep allowing these false prophets to keep misleading his people. And for those who are doing it, it's only a matter of time. They're going to have their day when they're going to be judged and called out as well. But this man here is definitely a disgrace. He's going to have a lot of detrimental consequences that are going to follow him, and it's unfortunate that his children are going to have to live. They're not going to be able to live it down. His wife is not going to be able to live it down, and that's what these married people don't understand. When you bring this level of embarrassment to your wife or your husband, everybody pays the price because of your actions. Now people are already bad-mouthing his wife, looking at her, calling her names, and putting her down, and she had nothing to do with it. Her husband made this choice. Same thing with his daughters, because from what I read in his biography, he got daughters. This is very embarrassing. And not only that, all of the members who looked up to him, all of his fellow deacon and brethren who respected him, who fellowship with him, only time will tell where he's going to land. I won't be surprised if they still keep him around as a leader within that ministry, because I've seen men of God get exposed only to still have a position, only to still have these church folks forgive and forget. Nothing is wrong with forgiving, but we should not forget, and we should make people be held accountable to their actions. So you still gonna have church folks that's gonna put tithe, who's gonna tithe to him and his side chicks, going to tithe to him and his hotel fees. You got church folks that's still gonna believe in him no matter what, and that is their personal business. Nevertheless, the only person I have any sympathy for really in this situation is Pastor Bauman, whose wife he actually saw coming out the hotel. I was surprised that she took him to the room when he demanded her to take him to the room to where Mr. McCarter was. She had some balls of steel. I don't think I would have had the balls to do that. I'm like, hey, you done already caught me. It is what it is. But I guess at that point she knew that he was furious, and she had better not buck the system and comply. And although, she did, at this point, I will be surprised that if he chooses to still stay married to her after such a humiliating experience. That's a very high level of betrayal. I don't think any man would really ever, no man ever would get past something like that. Men don't deal with cheating as easily as women do. Now, as far as McCarter, I won't be surprised if his wife still stays with him. And guess what? That does not make her a bad woman if she does. She didn't cheat. Her husband did. Doesn't make her a bad woman if she stays or if she goes. She didn't cheat. He did. So people don't need to be coming at her, disrespecting her, calling her stupid and dumb. She respected her vows. He didn't. As far as Sherry, I don't see how she could look herself in the mirror as a married woman. And I know her and Pastor Bauman has children together. She's going to have to roll with the punches. Sherry Bauman and Michael McCarter however the chips may fall from this point on out, they're going to have to be, they got to man up. They're going to have to woman up and deal with it. Because at this point in time, nobody has any empathy or sympathy for them. They deserve exactly what they get. And this is what happens when you try to be slick, you try to be sneaky, and you think it's not going to come to a head. And everything's out in the open. So anyway, y'all, leave y'all opinion below. Let me know what y'all think about this situation. What is y'all intake on this? Prayers definitely for the families, everybody who has been impacted by this, because there are children involved, there's family involved. Not only that, a whole church family has been dismantled. This has become a domino effect. So I really have empathy for everybody else who's been affected by these two individuals' selfish ass actions. But anyway, y'all, before you leave, please hit that like button. Make sure you like, you share, subscribe if you haven't already. Ladies, I am going to do content on this on my other channel, Mocha's Ladies Lounge, but I'm going to speak on this from a different perspective, because you know, over there I talk about adultery all the time, fornicating. You know, I'm going to give y'all my own spiritual insight on this whole situation as well. So ladies, if you have not subscribed to Mocha's Ladies Lounge, make sure y'all do that as well. Other than that, y'all, it's been pleasant, and I will talk to y'all soon. Take care. Be blessed.